We have a major injury. We have backfields completely changing. We have so much to talk about in this video. I'm going to give you my top 5 running back pickups for week 3. And at the very end of it, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I want to talk about some running backs that I've lost all hope on. Guys that I think that we should not be picking up off the waiver wire, but players that if they're on your roster, you should be sending them down there to waivers. Just completely get them off your team. But of course, before we get into it, go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. But we just recently hit 111,000 subscribers. So I owe you a massive thank you. And I'm going to continue to live stream every single day. Not taking a single day off until we get to the end of the year. So if you want your questions answered, if you want to come out and hang out with us in a live stream, make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. If you're not able to make it out to the live stream, just ask your questions down below in the comment section. I'm going to be replying to at least 200 comments on this video. And last but not least, of course, this is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Over there on Underdog Fantasy, you can check out a ton of cool player props right here. And when you sign up for Underdog and use promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. So it's essentially free to try out. And during those live streams when we're answering questions, we're going to be getting into best ball drafts on Underdog Fantasy that you can participate in with us on that live stream. But let's go through and let's dive into these running backs. Our first guy going to be Daryl Williams. Now with Williams, I honestly thought that he had fallen to the running back 3 in this Arizona Cardinals running back room. Now, I think we may have been wrong with this. Now, of course, nothing's concrete. But you did have James Conner rolling his ankle, so it looks like Conner's going to be missing sometime. Now, we said the same thing about Najee Harris when Najee Harris had his injury last week, so maybe we are wrong. Maybe Conner's going to go week 3. Of course, you're going to have to continue to monitor the health of James Conner. But when he initially went out, it looked like Daryl Williams was actually going to be the guy here. It was kind of a 50-50 split with Eno Benjamin, who will be our next waiver wire pickup. I mean, you had 40 snaps for Williams, 37 snaps for Eno. You had 24 routes run for Williams. You had 22 for Eno. You had, a whopping 8 carries for Williams, 8 carries for Eno. You had the same amount of targets. They were essentially identical across the board. But if you were watching the game, it looked like it may have been Daryl Williams' job here. This is something that we are going to have to continue to monitor because we've stood by this. This Arizona Cardinals offense may not necessarily be great from a real life perspective, but from a fantasy football perspective, if you are going to be getting consistent looks in Arizona, you know you're going to put up fantasy points. And the reason for this is if we go back and look at the Arizona Cardinals over the past 3 years in fantasy football, they are the number 1 team in the NFL in game neutral environments in pace of play. This is a team that tries to run as many plays as possible. Here Cliff Kingsbury tries to play it like it's Madden. That's why if you go through and you look at Las Vegas totals, you look at Las Vegas lines every single week, the Arizona Cardinals are going to have one of the highest implied team totals of any NFL team. So I think that if we could potentially pick up the starting running back off the waiver wire here, where we don't exactly know if it's Williams or Eno Benjamin, my bet based on what we saw this week in particular, maybe it's Williams. I think that we go through. I think we try to take a shot at it. But let's go down. Let's talk about our next guy. This was a situation I got entirely wrong. We looked at the Chase Edmonds role week 1, and I was like, okay, well, looks like Chase Edmonds is a bona fide 3-down running back. It looks like he's someone we're starting every single week. Raheem Mostert was a running back with a role just as large of Chase Edmonds this past week. You had Mostert actually with 39 snaps compared to Edmonds at 36. You had them with the same amount of routes run. I believe this was actually the highest routes run that Mostert's ever seen at the running back position. But, of course, he's 30 years old. Maybe I'm wrong with that. But hell, he did lead this backfield with 11 carries compared to Chase Edmonds at 5. Of course, there was not a lot of running back production to go around here because, unsure if you heard about this, but Tua Tagovailoa threw 6 passing touchdowns to our guy, Jalen Waddle. Not all of them, but he got a few. So I think that we assume that there's more rushing production going forward in Miami. Looks like Raheem Mostert maybe is going to be in a 50-50 timeshare here with Chase Edmonds. And of course, if Edmonds were to go down, then all of a sudden, I do think that you have a much more appealing spot for Raheem. But let's go over to our next running back, someone that we said you had to bench him this week. He was a 33-year-old running back going up against the toughest run defense in the NFL, and he's not a great pass catcher. Mark Ingram. Now with Mark Ingram, it's not like he stepped in and played every single snap in New Orleans. He was actually out-snapped by Tony Jones, which is funny to say. Tony Jones looks like he's going to be the clear pass-catching running back here in New Orleans. Like if this game gets out of hand, it's going to be Tony Jones Jr. in there. But if it's a competitive contest, I think that Mark Ingram did clearly prove that he's going to be the starting running back in any game that you have no Alvin Kamara. And with Mark Ingram, this is a running back that had 10 carries. He had 60 rushing yards. The efficiency is actually a little bit surprising here, considering the matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we know they have a great defense. They have a great rush defense in particular. Right now, it's hard to say exactly when we should be expecting Alvin Kamara back, but Alvin Kamara hasn't practiced in quite some time. There's a lot of uncertainty with the rib injury. And most importantly, Mark Ingram does not have nearly as tough of a matchup going into week 3 here as what he just had against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So even if I didn't want to start him with no Alvin Kamara in this lineup week 2, that doesn't mean that would be the same case the following week. Let's go through and let's look at our next running back here in Tyler Algier. Now, Tyler Algier was a healthy scratch week 1. So when that's the case, you'd assume, you know what, this is a running back that I want nothing to do with. But in reality, no. I mean, here you have another running back on this depth chart hitting the IR, opening a spot up for Tyler Algier to go through and play in that committee with Cordell Patterson. And so y'all know we drafted Cordell Patterson in a lot of leagues. But what did we tell y'all after week 1? We said to sell high on Cordell Patterson because based on the sentiment that this Atlanta Falcons coaching staff had coming into the season, they told us, you know what? It's probably not a great idea to rely on Cordell Patterson, a 31-year-old player who historically has not been used to handling a full starting running back's workload. Probably not a good idea to use him as a 3-down player. That's why we are looking to sell him high after week 1 here. I think that this is going to be a committee going forward. That's what we saw this past week where you had Cordell Patterson with 36 snaps compared to Tyler Algier at 19. You had a couple other running backs getting involved here, but Tyler Algier is that rookie. Of course, that rookie that was drafted on day 3, you're only going to assume that he continues to expand his role as the season goes on. And Tyler Algier was actually a running back that in college was able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Now, of course, he's not going to be as capable of a pass catcher as Cordell Patterson. I think Patterson has that role on lock. But Tyler Algier, regardless, should be a running back that is getting touches every single week now. And if there were to be an injury, and I know that we don't want to be predicting injuries out here, but Cordell Patterson is a 31-year-old player who has 1 season proving that he can go through and he can handle a starting running back workload. If there were to be an injury to Cordell Patterson, all of a sudden I think Tyler Algier could be the 3-down player here where he's actually involved as a pass-catching running back as well. And he tied for the team lead in carries here alongside Cordell Patterson at 10. Something you have to go through. I think you have to pick him up off the waiver wire. And a running back that actually was drafted a little bit before him in the NFL draft this year that I think that we need to go through and pick up is Tyrion DavisPrice. Now, it's a little bit deceiving if we pull it up and you see, oh, Tyrion DavisPrice had 14 carries compared to Jeff Wilson Jr. at 18. Is this a 50-50 split? No. I mean, here with Tyrion DavisPrice, the majority of this did come when this game was completely out of hand. Obviously, the Seattle Seahawks just couldn't do anything at all against the 49ers. But this was a running back that had a significant amount invested into him. I thought he was a decent prospect coming out of LSU. I mean, he wasn't great in any of the boxes, any of the metrics that we look for, but he was okay in all of them. And then if we're going to be looking at the running backs that are in this backfield as well, none of these running backs in San Francisco are great pass catchers. It's not like Jeff Wilson is someone that you are dying to have there on 3rd down. I mean, I know Tyrion DavisPrice isn't either, but I think that if we were to see something change here, where maybe Kyle Shanahan just changes his mind, we know that Kyle Shanahan will do that. Maybe we see an injury to Jeff Wilson. Maybe, just maybe, the rookie that was drafted in the 3rd round this year continues to expand his role and continues to get better. Tyrion DavisPrice could be viable. I am more excited about the options in San Fran without Trey Lance here. Y'all know I loved my guy Trey Lance from a fantasy football perspective, given the rushing upside he had. But at the same time, we said that Lance wasn't going to be able to support a ton of passing volume, and he was going to vulture rushing touchdowns at the goal line. Now that you no longer have to worry about that, I'm actually a little bit more excited about the skill positional players in San Francisco. So let's go through. Let's pick up Tyrion DavisPrice. And now our next running back, someone that just proved that he's the backup running back in Cincinnati. Samir P Ryan. So a lot of people are coming out saying, oh, you know what? Chris Evans is now the running back 2 in Cincinnati. Samir P Ryan, not someone worth the roster spot. Well, no, for those deeper formats, I think when Samir P Ryan's rostered in less than 5% of leagues, he's someone that I would go through and I'd pick up, because this is a running back that had 14 snaps this past week. I mean, yes, that's not a lot, but the only other running back to see a snap here was Chris Evans with 1. It looks like Samir P Ryan has solidified his role behind Joe Mixon. You would never in a million years start Samir P Ryan outside of a Joe Mixon injury, which you all know how much I love my guy Joe Mixon. I'm not rooting for it, but I think if it were to occur, if we assume that Cincinnati is an above average offense the rest of the way, which I know they haven't looked great through the first 2 weeks of this season, but I think Samir P Ryan, who profiles to be that 3-down back, if he was playing in an above average offense where he would have some touchdown upside, I think it would be an exciting play. But now let's go over and let's look at some running backs that I think you should just drop off your roster. Kenyan Drake, going to be a name that we did have on the waiver wire video last week. I mean, he did go out there and prove that he was the starting running back in week 1 in Baltimore. But in week 2, everything went out the window. It was a pure 3-man running back by committee. Yes, Kenyan Drake had the most carries in this backfield, but if we're looking in at the snaps, it's a 3-man split pretty much evenly. I think it's a crapshoot to figure out who would actually be the starting running back here, especially if J.K. Dobbins, for the love of God, hopefully J.K. Dobbins is coming back next week. So I think you have to drop Kenyan Drake. Don't really see the upside play here. And our next guy is going to be someone else that we told you to pick up off the waiver wire. Rex Burkhead. Dameon Pierce, officially the starting running back here in Houston. I mean, it took, yes, only a week. Rex Burkhead is still probably going to have a passing down role here in Houston. But in reality, that's just not going to be enough. He's an old, dusty running back that doesn't have a 3-down workload, that's playing in the Houston Texans offense. Just go through, let him go. Our next guy is going to be Samir White. Now, Samir White, yes, this is a younger running back that has that athleticism that a lot of people were excited about because, I mean, he flashed in the preseason. Obviously, this team doesn't look like they're all in on Josh Jacobs. But seeing that we had no Brandon Bolden this week and Samir White's role didn't really change at all, I think that it's very easy to go through and look at Samir White and say, you know what? He is a 1-for-1 backup with Josh Jacobs, where if Jacobs were to go down, Samir White steps in for first and second down running back usage here for the Las Vegas Raiders. And this is a running back that never demonstrated the ability to catch the ball in college. I think you would have no shot at doing that at the NFL level. So I think best case scenario, and I repeat, best case scenario here, you're holding a running back handcuff that we don't know if is talented, that's undersized, that would never play on third downs. Like, I would rather have Samir P Ryan, perfect example. I think if Joe Mixon were to go down, maybe you do get some targets out of the backfield for Samir P Ryan here in Cincinnati. Whereas if that were to occur with Josh Jacobs, I don't really see what the real upside is with Samir White. And our last running back, someone else that we had on the waiver wire video a week ago. But remember, this is how we use the last few roster spots on your team. We just go through, we churn that waiver wire until we have someone that sticks, like Garrett Wilson, who was on our waiver wire video last week, of course. And then once you have that player that sticks, then hell, rest of season, everybody slides down. You continue to churn through that waiver wire, try to find that next guy. But spit Jaylen Warren back down to the streets, spit him back to the waiver wire. This is a running back that looked appealing if Najee Harris was going to be injured, but hell, Najee Harris made the quickest recovery ever. Jaylen Warren's actually seeing a role in Pittsburgh. Never going to be enough to start him outside of an injury to Najee Harris. And this isn't like the same situation that we would have in Cincinnati, where if Joe Mixon goes down, you do have Samir P Ryan stepping up in what should be a very good offense in general. So we're excited about that workload. Here, if Jaylen Warren steps up to Pittsburgh, yes, I mean, if Najee Harris goes down, you better believe we're picking him back up off the waiver wire. It's just, I think it would be more of a low-end running back, too. I don't think he could be a top 12 running back, knowing that Pittsburgh's not going to be putting up a lot of points. But I think that should be it. And, of course, thank you so much for being a part of the flock, supporting the channel. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, go down there, ask them in the comments. I'm going to be answering at least 200 comments on this video. But thank you again for everything. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day.